Hello and welcome to Bruno's Geek Reviews. I'm here to review something that is completely new for me, but that a lot of old school Doctor Who fans have been aware for many years. And I'm late to the party, really. But well, let's get it started. Since 1999, the company Big Finish has been making Doctor Who audio dramas, using the original actors for the incarnations of the Doctor featured in those dramas. So you'd have Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor. You have Sylvester McCoy, Cullen Baker, Paul McGann, Tom Baker even joined the party. And for the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, Big Finish has made an audio drama called Light at the End. So that's a story that featured the incarnations of the Doctor from 4 to 8, all together in a single story. And I'd always meant to try the audio dramas, but I kind of it was one of those things where I was always put in the back. But then I had a story with all of those guys together, and I was like, well, I have to try it out. So I did, and it was amazing. And this is my first ever experience with an audio drama. I mean, really not just hearing part of it on the radio and in the car. Just listening to a whole audio drama. And I actually bought the CD. It'll come via mail, so I'll get it eventually. But when you buy a CD from Big Finish, if they also sell the download, you get the download version for free right away. So I could put it in my MP3 player. And it was really fun because I was actually listening to the audio drama while doing chores in the house. So it's one of those things where it's interesting because you can't really do that with a book or a movie or or a TV show. You can't do other stuff while you're listening to that. So if you have stuff to do that's physical that doesn't require a lot of attention, it's actually a very cool way of passing the time. You don't know this. You're having fun listening to the story. So how is it? Well, for a newcomer to the whole audio drama thing, the first few minutes are kind of weird because you're kind of getting used to this new format, this media. It's not new; it's older than TV. But I mean, for me, it's new, and you're kind of getting used to it. Because here's the thing: I heard some audiobooks before. And it's not the same thing. Audiobooks is someone reading the book to you. So it's basically still a book. It's just you have someone reading. But an audio drama is really, you have a cast. And the story is explained by dialogue and sound effects. So you won't have a narrator telling you, this character opened the door. No, you'll actually hear the door opening. And so I guess it's kind of tricky when you write those scripts, because people who write scripts for audio dramas kind of have to make sure that the sound and the dialogue explains what's happening without making it feel unnatural in the dialogue of the characters. But you kind of have to avoid that. You can't have a character saying, "Well, I'm going to open this door now." No, you just add the sound effect of the door. So that's an easy example. I mean, I guess when you're writing a script for that, I'm pretty sure it has to take some talent to make it work in that media. So I was very impressed with the result. Light at the End was an amazing Doctor Who story. It's a multi-Doctor story in the best way possible. And you have of all the interactions between the fourth and eighth incarnation, that's Tom Baker and Paul McGann. They are together a lot in that story, and it's amazing. Their banter, they quip at each other, the exchange of dialogue is so fun. Also, another noteworthy thing is, well, let's face it, I'm gonna be direct with this. The least liked incarnation of the Doctor is very often the sixth one, Cullen Baker. The actor was good, but his outfit was horrible. And it's kind of it had a clunky start, when that incarnation started off. They made a huge mistake of having him be unbalanced and crazy for a moment, so he tries to strangle his companion. That's another way to make people like a new incarnation of the Doctor. When you think for example, the opposite would be one of the best ways to introduce the Doctor is the 11th Doctor. One of the reasons I feel I really cheered for him right away was because as soon as you meet him, he's in danger. You don't have the time to go like, oh, do I like this doctor? You know, because the TARDIS is crashing. So already you're like, go doctor, you have to save yourself. That was very brilliant. And then even in the 11th hour in the first episode, when the TARDIS is still crashing, the first time you see the 11th Doctor, he's struggling for his life, hanging on to dear life and like climbing back into the TARDIS. So it's kind of one of those things where you don't have the time to, yeah, like to start thinking, how is he compared to the? No, you're like kind of like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen? Like, you know, well, I mean, you know he's gonna survive, but I just mean it was a very brilliant move from Stephen Moffat to just put the Doctor in danger. Then you know you'll be cheering for him right away, and then you'll worry later if like how does he compare to the other ones, as opposed to like having the Doctor strangle the companion. That was a bad move. I know it was explained in the story. It's not that the Doctor wasn't like behaving normally. Something was wrong, but it's just the worst way possible to introduce a new character. So yeah, basically Colin Baker was the Doctor that kind of like got the shaft. You know, he the elements conspired against him, and it wasn't the actor's fault. And that is proven with Big Finish because I heard that for many people he's their favorite audio Doctor. Like for the audio dramas, he's the one they prefer. That's what I heard, and I heard like the stories were kind of like better for that Doctor, and you know. And listening to this audio drama, I was like, well, yeah, I can see it now, because Colin Baker was really good in this, and it's really proof that he didn't get a fair chance because he is a good Doctor. And they're all very good, and you have the fifth Doctor. Who's like doing an investigation, if you will, that's very relevant to what's going on. I don't want to give any spoilers. I'm just, and you have the seventh Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, with Ace. Ace is one of my favorite companions ever. Even if I haven't seen much of her, I've actually haven't seen most of the seventh Doctor stories, but the ones I've seen, which had Ace in them, like. She's one of my favorites, and I've barely seen anything of her, so that's kind of like making me realize I have to kind of catch up on my seventh Doctor. And I do like Sylvester McCoy. Like, well, when he found his footing, if you will, you know, the Sylvester McCoy Doctor from Remembrance of the Daleks, you know, the mastermind, if you will. They all get their moment to shine. You have them all interacting sooner or later. Some more than others, like 4 and 8 interact a lot. It's really amazing, and Paul McGann and Tom Baker like had a blast together. You can tell. Well, I mean, I don't know, but I got the feeling that they had a lot of fun. That's how it came across. So they're really good actors. The villain is the Master. That's a must. You know, it has to be the Master. In fact, I'd be very disappointed if the Master doesn't show up in the Day of the Doctor. But I mean. You know, which is an unfair thing to say. I'm not saying it needs the Master, but it just feels right, you know. And it was a really good story, and it does have this kind of like build up, and you were like cheering, and when the Doctor, the seventh Doctor and Ace at some point realize something, and you're like as horrified as they are, and you're like. Oh, you know, you want the Doctor to succeed. And the way it all comes together. And even Doctors... Okay. No spoilers, just a general thing. Doctors 1 to 3 are not entirely out of the picture. They did include them in a way that made sense and that was tasteful. Because, you know, the actors are not alive anymore. But they did include them, which I think was the most respectful thing to do, you know, rather than just like exclude them. They did include them. They found a way to make it work. I did appreciate that, and you know, it's kind of like you know, they're part of it. Not as directly as the other ones, obviously, but they're still part of it. I did appreciate that a lot. What else can I say? But yeah, it's at first it takes, if you never listen to an audio drama. Takes you a few minutes, but then it kind of like the style sinks in. You just have to kind of like don't fight it. Just go along with it, and you'll get used to it a lot quicker than you think. At first, I was kind of scared. I wouldn't get into the format of just audio, you know. But I quickly did, and when it happened, once I was comfortable with it, and sometimes, yeah, sometimes it happens. Like there's a sound effect, and you don't know yet what it means, but right away someone will say something. Like the writers are not crazy; they know how to tell these stories. So the important thing is when you listen to an audio drama, sometimes it's like don't panic, just wait a second or two more, and it'll be explained. Like you hear a sound effect, you're like, what was that? You know, like kind of like a sci-fi-ish sound effect. What was that? And then someone else will say like, oh, this happened. And you're like, oh, okay. You know, yeah. So you have to just go along with it, go along for the ride. Now, some like nitpicks, if you will. Well, for one thing, there's Ace who complains about weapons at some point in the story, like oh, disliking weapons. When a scene earlier she used her nitro. That like another companion should have said that, or they should have just removed that piece of dialogue where Ace complains about weapons when she's the one who's always using them. I'm actually comparing Ace a lot to Captain Jack Harkness because she's kind of like the kind of companion who'll just, you know, be more violent than the Doctor would, I guess. And I guess the Brigadier would fall into that category too. Like I think the Doctor in the River Song, you know, the Doctor, like for all his like more peaceful ways, often finds himself needing these kind of like more direct companions, which I appreciate. But yeah, it made no sense for Ace to be complaining about weapons when she's using explosives left and right in the story. After that, when the Doctors are doing something really cool, you have this music that picks up where, and the music is good in the audio drama, don't get me wrong, but there's small moments where you actually go like, that's kind of like I Am the Doctor, but it isn't. In the sense that you can tell they really, it's kind of like they're not using the I Am the Doctor, like the 11th Doctor's theme, but it's kind of like a music that picks up in the same way, it almost sounds the same, and I don't know if, so yeah, it felt weird. It's like, but at the same time, I could see it as like it's before 11, so you can kind of see it as a theme from before it becomes I Am the Doctor. I'm not sure that sentence made sense, but anyway, that was just a very little nitpick because the music was good. I was just at some point like, it's like they're trying to do their own version of I Am the Doctor. It felt really weird. As someone who's watched Doctor Who from like previous to 2005 and who's seen all of the show since 2005, I liked how the styles, I don't know if people will agree with this, but I feel like the styles of both the older Doctor Who stories and the new ones have been combined. You have the best of both worlds. Like the stories kind of like it's pretty fast paced, but it also has a lot of moments where the Doctors are investigating, and the balance is really well kept. So you do have a feeling of the best of both worlds, if you will, where you have the new series that is fast-paced and you never have a boring moment, but there's also the older series sometimes took the time to develop things a little bit more, so they paid off a little better, depending, you know, on each story. But I feel like the story kind of had the better of both worlds. And this is a story that lasted for 2 hours, and I wasn't used to a format, and I really liked it, and I finished it before I even knew, you know, before I knew it, the story was over. Like, wow, I just listened to 2 hours of audio drama. It was that good. So yeah, and so it was a discovery for me, discovering this new format of telling stories, which I knew existed, but had never given a shot before. And it was an amazing Doctor Who story in itself. And you have amazing actors, like, doing the Doctor, each in their own way, each complementing each other and shining. You know, everyone has their moment in the spotlight. You know, they each do something cool in the story, and it's just the banter between 4 and 8. And for me, it's their first time for me, but kind of like the redeeming of the 6th Doctor, which a lot of people have known and spoke about for years because they've been following the audio drama. Sorry, but for me it's new. I was like, wow, I have a new appreciation of Colin Baker as the Doctor. Definitely. I mean, I never thought he was bad, but it's kind of hard to ignore that outfit. And when you don't have that outfit shoved in your face, you just concentrate on the man's voice and on the man's acting. Even though you don't see his face, he has a voice that is very clear and expressive. Well, the same could be said of every Doctor, but I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you go like, yeah, Colin Baker, like under different circumstances, could have done great stuff. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying he didn't show what he could do at times, but you know, let's face it, in that outfit, with the difficulties the show had, it just wasn't fair to him. So, Light at the End, highly recommended. Very good Doctor Who story, incredible multi-Doctor story, a great celebration of the 50th, and you know, it just gave me a little boost as I wait for the day of the Doctor. I have my ticket already, and it's kind of one of those things where I was getting really impatient, and I'm still impatient, but in a calmer way. So listening to Light at the End really kind of like gave me a good dose of Doctor Who, like a an epic dose, if you will, like something that felt like a 50th anniversary story before the actual 50th anniversary story, if you will. Well, they're both 50th anniversary story. I don't want to be unfair to Light at the End. It's that good. And yeah, I'm going to be repeating myself, so I'm going to stop right there. Thanks for watching. Highly recommended. I'll put the link in the comments, in the description of the video, so you can find it. See you next time.